photos of a flower and one photo of a rock that he was happy with. So, a real perfectionist, a real artist with a camera, and we're very happy to have him as the judge for our show. And Jim, we'd like to have you talk a little bit about how you make these selections, and glad to have you here.
Jim, it's a real pleasure to be here. I always like the sound of my amplified voice. I must say, it's really nice when you have this boomy sound out here. There's nothing, I remember being a psychology major at Kansas State University, another institution, taking a class from Roy Langford. Anybody remember that name from Kansas State? And it was the psychology of art. And one of the things he pointed out was that in a museum, what you do is you take and put up this artwork and you put a velvet rope in front of it, and no one seriously considers that the velvet rope is going to keep back the crazy person with the sledgehammer from the bronze statue or anything of that sort, It's there for another purpose. It's to instill appreciation, to give us a bit of psychological distance, to say, look at this thing, it's special. And I think that's what has happened tonight with all those wonderful photographs out there on the wall of Kansas. They're special. And the people who took them are special. And I wish those people who are here tonight who took those pictures, all the photographers, would stand up or raise their hands or something. I know Casey's there. There we got, there's Bill. How many have we got here? Give them a big hand, they deserve it. I think Bill Rao is right here. I think he came out from Maryland, where he lives, for this evening. Is leaving for India in a couple of days. Hopefully he'll get home, he says, before the jet takes off. But Bill, we're glad to have you here. And thank you for your dedication to photographing Kansas as well. It's exactly what happened several years ago when I was doing this story on the Great Plains, and I needed to photograph burning of the Flint Hills, and I called up Jim. And he says, yeah, I happen to know somebody who's burning, and by that evening I was out there with Josh and Gwen. It is not Josh in the picture, however, I must say. That's Gwen in there, who was expecting their first child at the time, riding the horse, and one of the ranch hands, if I remember correctly. But it shows that the deep connection between people and between places. The fact that you have this wonderful gallery space here now falling upon the Granada Theater, and the very lovely, I must say, Sweet Granada right next door is a very special place. I came over to photograph the Sweet Granada for a magazine that a friend of mine runs out in Washington State, Mary Jane's Farm. That's Mary Jane Butters. Came out and photographed that, if you will remember. It is altogether, this is becoming an absolutely stellar place. And the fact that you can do this here in Emporia, Kansas, I think is absolutely outstanding. The fact that you folks would come out in this weather to see it is equally outstanding and equally special. There is another piece of this when you look at these things. I remember when growing up here in Kansas, in which you would go into a gas station, a hotel, a bank, hospital, doctor's office, dentist's office, any public place, and you would see art on the wall, a photograph, a painting, mostly photographs. And the photograph would be of Colorado. And it would be this lovely lake scene, the mountains in the background, framed by beautiful tall trees. And as much as I love Colorado, it always seemed a bit odd that we couldn't have enough confidence in the place where we lived to pay attention to it and to appreciate it for what is here. So I'm very glad to see some photographs out there on the wall tonight that do not have mountains. They have a perfectly flat horizon. And that there is beauty and symmetry and meaning in our in those places. And I really appreciate that the photographers who have done the work to come to the place of understanding. Because that is really what we do when we go out and photograph. We come to a place of understanding, of seeing, of knowing, of appreciating, and then being able to communicate. And of course you have to have the other side of the coin. You have to have somebody to stand in front of these things and receive that bit of seeing, who also must come to a place of understanding. Perhaps with shows like this, Iconic Kansas, we are reaching that point in which we really don't feel that we have to apologize, that we really feel that we can love this place as it is, for what it is, and understand it without apologies, without feelings of inferiority, without any of those things that would have made us put a picture of Colorado on the wall instead of the prairie in our own backyard. When we did the story on the Flint Hills, I remember very well somebody coming to one of the shows and talking to me about a picture of basically grasslands, you know. In another eye, it was a pasture, you know, and this person said to me, you know, I've driven past that place any number of times on my way to work. Nobody ever told me it was something. Nobody ever said it was something. And I think that is part of what's going on here with this show and on the greater stage of Kansas. We are standing up and saying, the stuff in our backyard, the stuff we've been driving by all of our lifetime, it's something. Please pay attention. And so the fact that we're here tonight and we're paying attention, I think, is a glorious event. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for all the photographers who did the hard work of seeing, and thank you for letting me be part of this. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks all the photographers. I'm glad so many of you were able to get out here this evening. Thanks Susan Brinkman and Melissa and Liz Shank for helping put all this together, and thank you all for coming. Go out and enjoy the show.